So, thanks for joining us for Veronica's Q&A. We had her keynote last night to talk a little bit about cybersecurity risks, and also maybe I felt like it was slightly a call to action a little bit for us as data folks, machine learning folks, to maybe start to apply our skills into problem solving in this space. So we want to continue that conversation today. I don't know if you have any opening comments or anything from the conversations that you've had in the past day or so here.
Yeah, so would be great to know a bit of your background, that we are so few. So if you, and for example, what is your interest in the cybersecurity and machine learning based on the talk yesterday? And if you think there is any, let's say, struggle, or how do you get started, or how is where do you think you need help, for example? So we can have a conversation around that. My background is more like threat research applied to work with machine learning people. So there is something that I think we can discuss around that. Yeah. So
cool, and we'll use mics. We'll use mics so that the recording gets of the conversation, if that's fine. So I'll just share with you and pass them. If you want to give a little introduction, I don't know if you want to go too, Sebastian.
Oh, yeah. So thank you very much. I'm Sebastian. I'm researching in machine learning and security in the Czech Technical University in Prague. And we are building a set of tools and methods to help society by using machine learning in security as best as we can. So, yeah, close topic, let's say, to this.
Thank you.
Hi. First of all, I have to say I wasn't able to attend the keynote yesterday, which is why I'm here to try and catch up and discuss some of these issues. I'm a data scientist, a freelancer, currently working with a company that works with Wi-Fi network management. So I work with a lot of data to do with signals and like some overlap, although their main focus is not intrusion detection, but yeah, I'm interested in that.
Okay,
yeah.
cool. Thank you.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm a security specialist.
Okay.
And I'm here to learn something about machine learning and data science and all, because I think it's a huge area where we have a lot of missing knowledge in the community.
Thank you. We are, yeah. Okay. So just doing a small recap of yesterday, keynote was the point that I wanted to convey yesterday was that we need to think about cybersecurity, because it's affecting our real life, like physical life, in ways that we never expected before, right? The ability right now of a malware taking out of our electricity and going from software to real life it was not seen 20 years ago. So this is one of the things where we should get better at detecting, like malware, cyber threats, and cyber attacks, right? And the thing is that from how I see it, right now we got really good at creating storage capabilities. We know that, for example, US have like huge data storage facilities. We at Cisco have like, in our group, we have 1 million users. And the thing is, how do you detect things that are going on in such huge amount of data, right? It's not feasible for any human analyst, even if, for example, I would want to sift through the data and try to find something, because it's impossible, right? So in a small company, you have input data from the web traffic of your users. You have if you have agents on the endpoints, you can gather data from there. You have the Wi-Fi, you have logs, all type of logs, and then you collect them. And the thing is that you have terabytes of information sitting there. So what do you do, right? So that's why I believe that there is no way on not using machine learning. And there is a huge, thanks to marketing, that they created the buzzword of machine learning. Everyone is doing machine learning. People start to say machine learning doesn't work. And it's not, it's like saying, the chair doesn't work. Well, depending how you use the chair, it may work or not, or depending for what, right? And in there is really, it gets really interesting because I don't, from my point of view, that my job is analyzing network traffic. I cannot do it without the tools. And machine learning is yet another tool that let us reduce the amount of data. Like instead of having to look at 1 terabyte of data, can we look at, I don't know, 10 megs, which is something that actually you can do, right? So how do we use these tools in order to achieve that? And I think yesterday there were like, I think 2 big challenges that I presented. That the first one was how to get better at detecting things in real time to be able to respond when the attacks are happening right now. And the other challenge was like, imagine that you are already compromised. How can we detect things that escape our current detections as fast as we can so we can reduce the damage, right? If someone gets through our Wi-Fi, can we detect it within a day, within a week, or the guy is going to live there in the guest network forever? And this is the 2 main areas that I think that we are lacking right now. And as a, not in, like in general, right, as a security industry. And I think that for data scientists is a very nice field to be able to work with. And of course, but the problem that we are facing right now is that cybersecurity people is looking into a problem. And we are like ostracized, right? It's like we try to solve things the same way we tried to solve 20 years ago. And we are making progress, but it's not that much. And I think the way to crack this out is through diversity in our field, like bringing people from other backgrounds, bringing people from physics, bringing people from art, design, right? That give us the way to look at things differently. That's why I was talking here and I was really excited, because it's like, okay, it's a bit intimidating. There is a room full of data scientists, and but at the same time, it's like I would love to see more people tackling cybersecurity like this, because we need that, right? And not because cybersecurity, we cannot do it. We will do it, maybe in 50 years, but we cannot afford to take that long. That's kind of the main discussion. So I'm open to any questions or things that you want to discuss, so I don't talk for half an hour.
Does anyone have any questions right now?
I have questions, but I don't know if they were addressed yesterday, so I can watch the talk.
No, you should.
I guess it's more about the how,
how to do it. Yeah. Yeah. So that's.
Reducing it. How do you reduce it?
So it's a very broad question, but let's say the first thing that we are trying to tackle is we want to still be able to respond. We are tackling in our group, at least I can talk by my experience. We are trying to tackle the second problem, which is the after phase. It's like how we find stuff in the network data after a day, after a week that happened. So how we respond to that. And for that, we consume a lot of network traffic. We focus on web proxy logs or net flows. And the first problem we have is that we have a lot of data. And in that initial phase, when we get all this input data, we cannot, every algorithm, it will take always too long. So what we did is to create a series of layers combining different machine learning techniques, and one piece of machine learning processes the data and then it passes to another one. And I think that is one way to do it, that I think, for my experience, that I evaluate the results, it works pretty well. And in the first layer, we have the anomaly detection, which is really simple. It is really simple, and it's not very, very good. Anomaly detection has a lot of limitations, and it will give you a lot of false positives. But if you consider that after the anomaly detection there will be something else cleaning up, it can work. So what we do is having small little anomaly detectors. And when I'm looking at data as a human analyst, I'm looking at, for example, a URL, and I'm saying like, okay, this domain seems fishy because the name is, I don't know, malwaredomain.com, right? Well, why the user is accessing a domain like this? Okay, but that is just one thing that I'm looking, right? Then I'm looking, is there personal information being exfiltrated on the URL? Is the people downloading stuff? So you combine this, as a human analyst, you are looking at all these different things and then combine them together. So what we try to do is to do exactly the same. Every anomaly detector is really small and simple, and therefore it can be really fast. And each of those are looking at the data in specific things. Like, okay, you look at the length of the URL, you look at the, I don't know, amount of bytes down, and you look at the profile of the user, and so on. And each of them are looking at something and giving a score, like 0, 6, 0, 7, 0, and things like that. And then there is one module after that is combining the verdicts. And that is the first phase that I think is really easy to get started into the field. It's like, can we do something really simple that finds normal and finds malicious? And from there you can move on, right? You can say like, okay, this is not enough. How can I combine this with something else? But the amount of data you will have there is already something that you can work with. It's like really small. Yesterday I was pointing out to a data set that is called CTU13, which was created by Sebastian Group in the Czech Technical University. And actually is the first data, most people in machine learning and security, they are using the DARPA dataset, which is from 1998, something like that. It's like, and they have like port scanning. Yeah, we got really good detecting port scanning. It's like really noisy, right? But right now we try to detect things like, I'm uploading company documents to Dropbox, right? We want to detect that. Or we want to detect malware that will wait until you open your bank account to actually communicate with the command and control servers. So how do we do that? And this dataset has a combination of normal traffic, malicious traffic, and background traffic that you don't know what it is. And I was highlighting it yesterday because it's yes, it's a dataset from 2011, but still it's not 1998, right? And it's the best dataset that I know to get started with that says like, okay, the first challenge should be, can I take this dataset and can I split and detect with whatever algorithm I play with, malicious and normal, and maybe detect something on the background traffic that it was not labeled before. And once you succeed on that, okay, can I move to faster algorithms? It depends on the challenge that we are trying to attempt. But yesterday, I presented the 2 challenges, and I presented 3 areas on how to work with. And the first one was, you can work only on making algorithm faster, right? Because that is just by itself an area that we need to work with. And then there are other 2 areas. It's like, you don't need to be an expert trying to find new things. You can focus on trying to find known things better. And I think that dataset is really good for getting started.
And I guess small question then about the dataset. So the labels, are they from that CTU dataset, or how do you know something is malicious in the first place?
Yeah. So this CTU13 was created for research purposes. So they took normal traffic from the university, and of course it's anonymized, and then they infected machines with specific malware, and they capture the traffic on the network. So they know which malware it is, and you know, if you search, you can know, okay, this is a banker, this is a stealer, and things like that. So it was carefully created, and that is also very rare and uncommon. Labels in our field are non-existent. That's, yeah.
I know that too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Question? Okay, I will add a question.
Yeah.
So I know that yesterday you mentioned that now you're doing a shift to like this flow data. I'm very curious about that because yeah, I don't know that much about networking, but I know that flow data has a lot of different information versus these like trying to parse headers or figure something out. I'm curious about kind of how that works with the system that you currently have, or if you're having to change a lot of them because maybe flow data is more complex. I don't know if this is true.
Well, so far we were working with proxy logs, which I showed some examples yesterday. Basically, is whatever you do through the web. And compared to what NetFlows, information you have in NetFlows, proxy logs are amazing. Okay. In NetFlow, what you see, like in the basic NetFlow format, is really, really simple. Like you have a timestamp, you have a source IP, destination IP, source port, and destination port. Then you have bytes, but it's like an aggregation of all the connection. So you don't know how much bytes were in one request. You know like the aggregation. So you have some other statistics like packets, duration of the flow, and TCP flags, and in the normal versions of, or simplest version of NetFlow, you only have that. That's it, right? So for us, it's been really challenging because in the case, for example, I was telling yesterday that you have servers where they have malicious and normal behavior at the same time. How do you do that? How do I model that, right? Exfiltration, for example, if like aggressive exfiltration, that you have one user that is leaving tomorrow and it's uploading all the documents, is kind of easy because you will see the huge amount of data being transferred out. But if you have something more stealth, like 10 megs today, 10 megs in the night, 10 megs tomorrow morning, it's normal, it's right. So that type of misuse, it gets really difficult, and mostly or much more with NetFlow. The good thing about NetFlow is that we have visibility in other protocols, which is really interesting because most, of course, companies have their internal application in some weird ports, but usually that stuff is internal, so it doesn't go through the internet. And malware usually tends to, in some cases, use weird things. And that it gets really interesting because before we had only web traffic, and now we have FTP, we have DNS, it's aggregated, we don't see the request, but at least it's something that we can have, like, okay, can we identify a behavior, like a lot of DNS requests without a following HTTP request or another connection to a protocol, that because you do DNS requests to connect to the web, for example. So why I'm seeing, like, I don't know, a lot of flows going to DNS and I'm not seeing some follow-up. So let's say the rules that you need to start creating are more like complex, combining different behaviors together. And for example, one of the most interesting cases we worked with was with the WannaCry ransomware, which it was interesting because we just started to get NetFlow data, and we were able to see connections to different ports, And we start seeing this scanning to port 445, which is a samba spreading. And it was so interesting, and say like, but we cannot know if it's WannaCry or not, right? It might be some people just scanning. And then we say, well, but all the hosts are in the internet. Why would a system be scanning the internet for this port? And actually, we contacted the customers, and we say, we think this is weird. And they say, well, actually, it's not this latest threat. It's a threat that we know for the last 15 years. It's really old malware. And it was like, okay, it doesn't matter, because for us, it's like we saw this behavior, and we could detect that it was malicious. For us, it was something positive. But with other port scannings, it gets trickier. Because, for example, like, I don't know, scanning on internal networks. There are companies that still allow that, and you can have like hundreds of false positives. So then you have to think, what if I combine a port scanning with connections to specific hosts? Oh, okay, then you have a pattern of behavior. Yeah. And there is, I think, it gets really exciting, because for an analyst, you have to start thinking like the attacker. What could the attacker do? What is next? And that, for us, is really exciting. Like, okay, you need to actually keep learning, because you are getting outdated, and they are moving forward, and you don't, and then you stop detecting things, right? So I think we have less data, but there are other challenges that are very nice in there, yeah.
And, sorry, do you have a question? Okay. So I know that we both know Marion, and she is a big skeptic about using machine learning for static malware analysis. Have you done any static malware analysis? Like, I know that your background is varied, so I don't know if you've always worked with network data, or if you've also done studying of malware code.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I've been talking with Marian about that. I haven't seen yet a really successful machine learning use of static analysis. But I believe that it's not about the machine learning itself, it's how you use it, right? So I think we still didn't crack this up. And our main input of data right now is network, so we are very limited. But I have a colleague that is working on that. And so far, he's getting really exciting results. But it's like how, again, if that works, the amount of data he will need to process is huge. And when you work, and that is another reason why I was mentioning the dataset yesterday. Because many people try the algorithms in really small data, like really, really small and really carefully prepare, and they curate too much the data they work with. And when you plug algorithms like that in real life, they don't work, right? It's like, it happened to us, it's been 10 years we are doing this, right? And when we start getting more data, it's like, okay, this stopped working. Why? What did we did wrong? Well, it's not prepared. When you have like companies or customers in all parts of the world, what is normal here is creating false positives there. So how do you work with that, right? So, and I think that in static analysis, we are not there yet. I want to believe that it's possible, and I think that it would be tremendously important to have something like that. But yeah, maybe for the next PyCon I can send my colleague to talk. Would be really interesting.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, be my guest.
No, you.
Yeah. Well, so you have malware. Usually it's a software piece of code, right? And you have like maybe two main ways to analyze that. One is executing the program and analyzing what it does dynamically. If the malware communicates outside, it will generate network traffic, so it goes to network traffic and you study that. And static analysis is more analyzing the instructions and the code and how the software was actually built and made, instructions it calls, and things like that. So try to, without executing, trying to understand if it's malicious or not.
And part of, just to give the brief intro that was yesterday of how I was able to meet an amazing person like Verónica is through this black hoodie group that does a women's hacker camp every year to learn static malware analysis here in Germany. So yeah. I can also happily share the information with you. Yeah. But it's kind of cool because I know that there's in security culture, similar to the data science culture, sometimes there's a difficulty in creating diversity, and yeah, so it's fun to have these programs to get more diverse folks into security and hacking and malware analysis, as well as then also talking about these data science things. You had other questions though. Do you have any questions as well? Okay. Chime in anytime. Chime in anytime.
Okay.
I guess talking about all these threats, I'm just wondering what the temperature of your office is. Like, is it always an emergency? Because you probably have a better idea of everything that's going on everywhere. Like, can you sleep well? Like,
can I sleep well? That's a good question. The better question is, can you sleep?
Yeah.
Well, we have the main processing of data is done by machine learning. So the machine learning is the one that detects the stuff on the networks. Most of the time, what I work is taking the output of the machine learning and analyze it and putting the analyst feedback on top of that and telling the customer, okay, the machine learning engine says this is malicious with probably, I don't know, high risk. And what I say is like, yes, this is malicious, but it belongs to this botnet, and the botnet or the malware does this, and this is how you remediate. So we put this extra little thing there. And so once and that is the magic of the automation, right? Because once I say something is malicious, I don't need to keep tracking it all the time. I can tell the researchers, I already know what it is, and they will manage to, let's say, automatically detect that. And so the next time the customer will see, oh, this is a malware of this type, because somebody already detected. So going back to the question, most of the malware incidents are detected this way, and we kind of make a lot of progress to keep track of the major or well-known malicious campaigns of malware. But from time to time, we get some unexpected things, and we need to start running, like WannaCry or Petya this week. These ransomware outbreaks that we need to start thinking like, okay, what they are, and we need to process tons of information in 24 hours to kind of get a response, right? And to try to think like, okay, what new combination of things can we deploy that will actually detect this that we didn't know before? So there is information security. When I get new people, I always tell them there are like one bad thing and one good thing. The good thing is that it never ends. It's like there is always something new, yeah. And the bad thing is that it never ends, and it's always something new. It's like, can you just stop for a minute? And they don't. And on the personal side, studying or working in security makes you really security aware, and you try to, sometimes InfoSec people are well known for saying like, I don't know, did you tap the camera of your phone with the sticker? Why do you didn't do it? Or things like that. And yes, that's also part of what we do, because we know what can happen. So we know that if you take the precautions and you are security aware, you can avoid most of the common things. Another thing that we know is that at some point someone will maybe target you, and you need to be aware of that. And for example, yesterday I was telling about a case of Ahmed Mansour, which is a human rights activist and blogger from Emirates, and he was targeted with a government-level spyware on his iPhone, but he never actually got infected because he sent the information to the Citizen Lab, and the researchers there say, well, yeah, thank you for not clicking on that, right? And he learned through bad experiences that this could happen, and he learned how to prevent it, right? And if that spyware would have been on his phone, they could know every move, they could know every contact he had, and it was really life critical, right? So it's, once you get into the topic, it kind of changes you. I think for good. Yeah.
Maybe a short comment on it. It hardly depends on which group you're working. If you're working as a malware analyst, or if you're working on in a computer emergency response team or whatever. In computer emergency response team, it can get very stressful, especially if there's just a campaign targeting you and your company. If you're working at an area, for example, where you doing more the attack sector, it can be relaxed depending on your customers.
Yeah.
There are a lot of areas in IT security where we are looking for people. I know that a lot of emergency response teams are looking for people, especially for analysts, because they just can't handle the data which is coming in. Yeah. And for some of them, it's quite hard to identify a campaign when it's starting. Most of them are able to see it when it's done.
Yeah. And there is a lot of rotation on the field of incident response because it, as he says, gets really intense and stressful. And so people work a couple of years and they move to somewhere else. And it's always kind of refreshing and moving. Even changing environments and doing the same is good, right? Because it gets really intense. But yeah, and this type of work is also really challenging because they are the ones that needs to go to the desk and say like, what is this machine infected? So what we try to do is to take the machine learning to the next level, which I think is possible, and say like, can we get better instead of saying this is malicious, score 9, that doesn't mean anything? Can we say something else on top of this? Like this might be a bank intrusion infection. Can we say this is probably adware? Because that, even if it seems like a small piece of information, is for the people that is responding is so important because it helps you prioritize and say like, okay, I'm not going to start running because of adware. I know I need to remediate it, but I got this other infection that maybe I need to respond faster. So I think that with all these advances in machine learning, we should be able to do more. But I think that we also have a problem of diversity that if we want to, it feels, from my side, it always feels like we are one step behind from the attackers. They always get in, they always find a way, and we are always reactive, right? And if we want to, I think machine learning is a perfect technique because it has some complexity that maybe malicious actors will take longer to adopt. And if we think in 5-10 years, maybe we can do something like it will give us the opportunity. But as I said yesterday, we need people from other areas to help look at the problem in a different way. Yeah.
I want to know more precisely your take on, for me, the important topic of women in security, right? Like, we don't have them, we need them, there is no opportunity, or the problem of how to get them there and why we need them, and which opportunities there may be in there, right? I know you have like some insight in that it's difficult to get for the rest.
Yeah. Women in security. Thanks for the question. So it's very complicated. There is some strong lack of women in security in our field, which is in some environments, like for example I think in science in general, but I was so excited that in this conference we have so good diversity, like half of the room were women, and I was really impressed, right? In security it's a bit difficult. Most of the environments that are in general, let's say male dominated, they are harder to get in, but I think it's a really good area for women to actively participate and be successful and contribute strongly. And I think that because we have, as women, we have different set of capabilities. We complement each other, right, with men and women. And women tend to have this ability of having the big picture in mind all the time, not go to specialize. And we were talking today about the need of generalists, the need of people that will take different opinions and put them together. And I think that is a great thing, because women have this have a knack for this, like naturally, like. And I think it's if they can break the ice and get into the field, not waiting for an invitation, just do it. It's a really exciting field, and they will be welcome, I think. And at least I had some bad stories, but I also have like hundreds of good stories. And I think that if you really like the field, you need just to go for it. And if you feel there is no space for you, just make it, right? We are always asking for permission. We don't need to do that. Nobody asked for permission before us, right? So if you really like the field and you think that you can contribute something, you just need to do it. You need to, if you want to get into data science and security, just find a data set, let your work show what you can do, and you will be embraced, right? Because we need that. And the only way to get more women in security is to getting more women in security. Once you have one person, you will get more. But we need more women to dare to get in without fear of being rejected. And if they are rejected, find another place, right? Find a group of people or community that takes you in. And if you cannot move and find another, because there will be place that they will embrace you. And once you are there, just do your best and show and bring other gears, other people. Not only women are lacking, but other people from other countries. Is mostly there is a lot of security, like white people, infosec guys, and it's not that. That's not right? We need diversity not only in gender, but in all other areas as well, and also in disciplines, right? That's what I was talking in the beginning. Like, if you have a different background, it would be amazing to have you in this field. So, but I think that we should stop asking or waiting for an invitation, because that's not going to happen. We are too worried trying to solve the malware stuff, right? So I think that women need to just go for it and take the chance and do it.
Well, I think I have to speak for myself, at least, that it really helps to have people like you speaking and in front of conferences and talking about your work, because then I feel like it makes other people, as I'm there listening, I can do this. These are problems I can work on. I connect, and so I think too to encourage, to step up, but also to thank you for being a strong woman and working on this field and these things, is that it influences a lot of people, and that means something. It makes more people get the courage to do so too. So that's also, I know, is a lot of work. So I just want to thank and say that's a very important piece of this puzzle, in my opinion.
Thank you very much.
I think we can do possibly one more question, if anybody has one. Otherwise, we can take a break. I think there will be some. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. You have your. Yeah.
Maybe one thing at the end. I think it's also important that data scientists and machine learning community starts to learn a little bit from us security experts, because I see there's, how to say, it's a very lax handling of data protection security at all in this area. And sometimes with my background, I have some bad feelings about it, honestly, because it's quite too easy to get in.
Yeah, yeah. We were talking today about this. Sometimes people from other fields that have access to information, they are not aware of the consequences or the importance or the risk they are putting people's lives in, because they are mishandling data, right? And everyone, I think every one of us have the responsibility to take a stance on that and say, like, okay, even if you are not working on security, if you are handling people's data, that is right now really important, because again, it's like the physical and the digital colliding, right? And the fact that, like, we saw many talks on that topic, that how data mining or algorithms or machine learning can influence your life, like getting a job because, I don't know, your skin color is different, right? Can we remove that feature and use another one? Because that could help a lot, right? And it's that easy, but people is not aware of the consequences that what they are doing. And it starts with, I think, with everyone. Yeah, so thank you.
Yeah, and I think this education is an important thing. Part of why I invited Veronica, I'm like, we need to have these conversations. There are sometimes these data breaches where somebody just puts a model somewhere, and in it is personally identifiable information, and the model is serving from production and just giving recommendations. I mean, it's there for the taking.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, starting this conversation is really good. And I welcome more security talks at these conferences. As a conference organizer, I would love to have more conversations about these things. Yeah. And also potentially data science folks going to security conferences. And occasionally this, I feel like the overlap is massive and we have to work together.
Yeah. And as a final remark, there is I think one thing that we do bad as a security community is that at least a big portion of our community blame users always. That is the easy way, right? We have a lot of work because users click on links. And I work, yeah, it looks legit. And I was also infected, and I didn't like it, and I felt stupid, and I'm not afraid of saying it, and I say this in front of other security professionals, and they mock me, and well, my point of view is that if you blame users, you are missing the entire point, right? Because when I really reflected on why did I click the link, because I really didn't like it, and I knew it was going to haunt me forever. That's why I speak of it. But I was under a lot of stress. I was waiting for some paperwork, information that I really needed to be able to stay in Europe, and suddenly I got this email that I got a package, and I was waiting for a package. So. Yeah, and I was waiting from the package from the company they say me that I was waiting for, and then I click, and it was bad, right? And it was like, well, if we try to solve security without taking into consideration users, we will always do it wrong. We will never get it right, because like I was in a conference last year and I asked a similar question, and the speaker said, my grandmother, she doesn't need to know about security. She's an end user. She needs to use the technology. So how is possible that after all these years we require my grandmother to actually learn security to stay safe? Well, that shouldn't be that way, right? So I think we should do better and put the users on the equation, and yes, it brings complexity and uncertainty and a lot of challenges, but there is no way to solve it without them. Because, I mean, all this cyber is a world that was created by us, and it plays by our own rules. But that also means that we can change them, right? We can build things differently. So it takes the responsibility to say people get infected because us, like security people, there is something that we are doing wrong and probably we can do better. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us. And I would do claps, but then I'll probably just make you feel awkward. So.
Thank you.